This is the Big Brains by Innvocon, and we are here back with yet another episode. And I'm here with Anthony Pierri today, who is a partner at Fletch PMM. Anthony is also a LinkedIn top product marketing voice and the former head of product marketing at Headway. So, Anthony, thanks a lot for joining me.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Absolutely. So we'll start straight away with the question. We'll jump straight away to the question. So, Anthony, what does Fletch do?
Yeah. So, me and my partner, Robert, we started Fletch primarily to help early stage SaaS startups write better messaging, specifically around their homepage. So, what we discovered is that most people struggle with messaging, and they might think of it as a copywriting problem or a design problem. I'm just not sure quite how to get the right words to explain what we do. But when you step back and you look underneath, it's usually actually stems from a product marketing problem. It's a question of which types of customer segments do we want to target in the first place? Should we talk to all of them at once? Do we want to prioritize one over the others? What types of features do we want to highlight when we actually decide which audience we want to speak to? How do we speak about those features? Should we talk about them at all? Should we be targeting the end user? Should we be targeting the buyer, some sort of higher level decision maker? Are we in a product category that exists? Are we making a subcategory of a existing product category? Are we doing a brand new product category? All these types of questions that make it really, really hard to just write your homepage. They're all product marketing questions.
Right.
And so we realized that there was this giant hole in the market where founders really don't have much support in this area and trying to understand like how to write their key value propositions, present them in a really clear way. And so that's essentially what we do as a business. We work with tons of different startups, primarily helping them figure out how do they want to position themselves on the website, what are the key value propositions they want to make, and then usually when we're done with working with them, the output is that we actually help them rewrite the page. So we've worked with close to 100 different startups at this point.
Fantastic.
So we've seen probably every slice of company you could possibly imagine in the early stages at least. So yes, that's basically what we do.
Fantastic. So next question, it just came out of curiosity. I was searching through the website. The snippet of Fletcher's Google search result, it says that SaaS homepages are a garbage. So, so why would you say that in specifically for the SaaS companies?
Yeah, so I think SaaS companies struggle from some unique factors that other companies don't quite struggle as much with. So take a physical product company, like a company that sells something, Nike, let's say. Nike sells a lot of physical products, and so no one is ever confused what they're buying.
Right.
I'm buying the shoe. I'm buying a shirt. And so for Nike, product marketing isn't even really a category. It's just marketing. We have products and we market them. When it comes to software and when it comes to B2B software specifically, everyone starts getting confused because they say, well, the end user might not be the buyer. So
Right.
if I'm talking to the buyer's never going to use the product. What ultimately is the buyer buying? And then we start getting in this language where we say the buyers, they're shopping for an outcome. They're trying to buy increased revenue. They're trying to buy more leads, something like that. They don't even really care about the software. They don't care about the features. They're just trying to get this outcome. And so every SaaS website out there says some version of we're going to increase your revenue, we're going to grow your business, we're going to whatever. And the actual thing that they're selling, the product, is usually nowhere to be found. And
Absolutely.
you have to scroll down through many, many sections before you get any inkling of what the heck is it? When would I use it? Why would I use it? Who would use it? What problem does it solve? And all we see are these vague outcome statements that litter the page. 10x or whatever, get this amazing ROI. And so it's a combination of there that people think, well, I know that when I'm in a sales cycle, this high level executive can kill the deal.
Right.
So maybe I should write the page for them. But that person is so far removed from the buying process, they'll never end on your website in the first place. They'll never even see the messaging. So all the rest of the people who would benefit from knowing what is this product, who would use it, when would they use it, they get boxed out of the equation. And so you're left at the end of the day with these sites that don't really do anything for anyone. And you see industry-wide conversion rate is less than 1%. It's like
Mhm.
0.5% on every page. So it's no surprise to me that when you write the page for an executive who is never going to see the page, the overall conversion rate is going to be pretty low.
Right. So, in fact, that's an interesting point, I would say. And my next question is in line with your last statement, and also to the last post that you means just posted online on LinkedIn. You mentioned that SaaS websites get worse at as the company gets larger, and you mentioned three specific large SaaS-based companies as well. And you also mentioned that the trend is mainly true for the SaaS based businesses, B2B SaaS. So my question is, why SaaS specifically first? And what should the growth stage companies do to not have these red tags or these red flags in their website or the landing pages?
Yeah. So when you look at a company like Airtable, when Airtable launched their first messaging, so this was in 2020, so this was still post launch, but they say part spreadsheet, part database. They're being very clear, right? Slack in 2020 says Slack replaces email inside your company. So I'm very, oh, okay, this is going to be a new communication tool, right? And even Zoom was Zoom for video, conference rooms, and phones. So they're giving me pretty much exactly what it is. So the confusion gets as they get bigger, they take on more use cases and say,
Absolutely.
we do more things. And what they don't understand is that people still will buy them for the individual use cases. So even though they might call Zoom one giant product, it really is a collection of products.
Absolutely
Whether they're
right.
all in the same, right, they're under the same name, they're really a collection of each use case is kind of like a different product.
Right.
And so what the larger companies get, the Apples, the Microsofts, um, the really big companies who, are bigger than Slack and Airtable and Zoom for my post, all of them combined, what they understand is that as they get bigger and brand awareness becomes higher, more people know what they offer. Then they say, okay, well, my website actually is a giant billboard. It's a way to get in front of a lot of people and give them some sort of message. They realize everyone kind of knows what Microsoft offers, everyone kind of knows what Apple offers. So rather than trying to create a summary statement of everything that Apple offers, they say, why don't we take these 500 million visitors we get every month and use it as a billboard for one of our products?
Right.
Because people buy products. So, for example, a SaaS company in a growth stage, it's a lot smarter, in my opinion, to say, okay, well, maybe everyone knows kind of what we offer. Now we've got free real estate with all these visitors. We don't have to try to summarize everything. Because if I actually have a post in the works, I'm probably post it later this week, but if a bunch of executives from SaaS companies were critiquing Apple's website, and the homepage of Apple's website is just a giant picture of the iPhone, and it's like, buy the iPhone, the SaaS people would be like, they would be commenting on it and being like, if we just put this, people are going to think we just have one item. We're so much more than just one phone. We
Yeah.
sell computers and
Right.
watches, and we have to tell that we do everything. When it's like, people already, if you're getting bigger, people know you do the other things. So why would you? It's a question of, when you have 500 million visitors on your website, do you want to show them a vague, weird, broad statement that is uncompelling? Or would you maybe want to push one of your products and say, wouldn't it be great if some of those 500 million people bought one of our products in our big suite of products, rather than trying to explain, here's like, because if they were doing the Apple website, it would be like some sort of, move, I can't even, some stupid
Yeah.
phrase that they're trying to summarize using a watch, a computer, an iPad, a phone, the Apple TV subscription. They would try to summarize across everything because they're too afraid to just say, which thing are we pushing this quarter? What do we want more of? Like, as from a strategic point of view.
Absolutely. Um Something on that front again. What's the best website in terms of message clarity that their landing page gives, and the best landing page that you've come across recently?
Yeah, so best is definitely relative, right? It's different. There's some ones that I like for sure. So I think Notion's page is pretty good.
Yeah.
We really, in general, like Notion in the way that they do product marketing. So their H1, like the main headline in their site says, your wiki, docs, and projects together.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're in a new category, but then rather than coming up with some weird, goofy name that no one would understand,
Right.
they basically say the three main use cases, right? Creating documents, building wikis, and managing projects. And they're like, that's why you would use us for these three things. And then you scroll down, and the first thing you see is a picture of the product.
Right.
It's not hidden away in some weird illustration or some vague picture of humans doing something. Literally, I can see the product of Notion, and then you can scroll down, and it says, wikis. Centralize all your knowledge in these wikis, right? That's the second piece. Create documents, all sorts of stuff. It's very clear what they're doing. And Notion is a very high valuation company. I think they're
Absolutely.
like valued at like 10 billion or something. So they're not falling into these traps and getting all weird and broad. Although Notion can be used in a lot of different ways, they're still saying, here's the product we've built, and here's why you would want to use it.
Absolutely. So, something related to GTM. I recently came across one of your LinkedIn posts regarding the GTM channels. Um, what are the most recommended GTM channels? We won't go for the entire list or something of preference, but the most recommended GTM channels for horizontal and vertical SaaS companies, and why?
So I think in terms of go-to-market channels, right, it's highly dependent on what you're selling. And this is kind of a controversial take, maybe. A lot of times, the best go-to-market channel is the one where you have access to experts who know how to execute in that channel. So, like, if one of the founders of a company was incredibly good at cold outbound, like cold email, all that stuff, assuming we're talking about a larger ACV company that like it's more expensive and it would make sense to do that, I would say lean into the strengths that you have available. Like me and Robert, my partner, we use LinkedIn thought leadership posts to generate all of our business. And if I went into a company, that's my expertise. I probably would lean into using that because I would say I know how to do this channel. I know how to make it work, how to make get business from it. If someone else maybe is really good at other types of content, some people are really good with SEO. So I actually, in my opinion, in the early stages of a startup, it's less about finding the exact right channel and more like what access to talent do you have. And if you have access to someone who's really good in one channel, that might be a good place to start rather than trying to tackle a different channel that you maybe don't have the right skill set for. Maybe it would be the correct one in the grand scheme of things, but if you can't execute in the channel, it's essentially the wrong one.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, just for a new audience, the aspiring entrepreneurs or the people who are willing to start a SaaS-based company or have a product in mind, if you could just clarify for them the difference between vertical SaaS, horizontal SaaS, and the platform.
Yeah, for sure. So um, you can slice a market in lots of different ways. I actually did a big post about it. Like there's, an infinite number of ways you can slice the market, but a common way to slice the market is by vertical, to say we service financial services institutions, right? We're the CRM for accountants or something like that. So essentially, that's a vertical company which is focused on an industry and helping them solve their challenges across their industry. They might target lots of different use cases, but they really narrowed it in for one group. A horizontal company would be more focused on a specific use case that is shared across many different industries. And a lot of times these use cases are based around a specific team. So, like a sales use case is often very horizontal because sales teams in fintech or sales teams in logistics will have very similar roles. So, servicing across ends up becoming very horizontal. But sometimes it's not, it's even more horizontal than that. It's around a specific activity, like for example Calendly, when they first went to market, their use case was around scheduling meetings online. So who's trying to schedule meetings online? All sorts of people. We have some people, freelancers, we have counselors and teachers and CEOs and salespeople, all these different people. So it's a much more horizontal company. So you're targeting a segment that spans across multiple verticals. The third type is like a platform, and a platform is really you've created tools that can essentially build other products. So Airtable is not really horizontal. because it's not one use case, it's many use cases. It's not really vertical either because it's not like only for financial services or only for whatever. It's really a platform because what you can do with it is build a CRM. You could build a task manager. You could build an email list. There's a million different ways. So they basically give you the tools to create other products that you could then use. And it's very similar to uh, Legos, like the building block Legos. The platform is like all the different Lego pieces. They give you all these pieces and they can be used to build a ship and a castle
Absolutely.
and all sorts of different reasons.
Yeah. Um, Something that I asked there in my last in a last episode of the Big Brains as well. Um, what are the red flags? Some of the red flags and some of the green flags that you see uh, while you first visualize or first see the landing page of a company's website, specifically talking about SaaS.
Yeah, big red flag is when it's primarily outcome statements, and nothing like we wouldn't say like the opposite of an outcome would be like a capability. So product capabilities are like what do I do with the product, and so people get this wrong a ton. When it's only benefit statements, which are like outcomes, you'll see like reduce your frustration, increase your revenue. All those things are outcomes of activities. It's not like from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. I put on the calendar. What did you do during that hour? Well, I increased revenue. It's like, no, you probably were doing an activity, and that activity was maybe increasing revenue, but the activity itself is not increasing revenue. That's the outcome. It's like the difference
Right.
between a lead measure and a lag measure. You want to measure the inputs, not necessarily the outputs. So a big red flag we see is when the pages are all outcomes and no real indication of what you actually would do with it. Green flags, good things, would be when we see lots of the opposite, more holistic messaging that's saying, here's the problems that we solve, here's the ways you can solve it, the capabilities, the features, and the outcomes. And likely, we also want to see some indication of who would be using it. So when you have a more holistic message, it paints the picture of when would I use this, why would I use this, how would I use this, all those different things versus just talking about outcomes. So really, those are the two ends of the spectrum that we see, and the vast majority of SaaS companies are on the outcome side.
Absolutely. So, a question, maybe we might be differ on the opinions on this part. This entirely came out of my curiosity, and I recently felt it that in the last few years, many companies they try to deliver each and everything, or they create an all-in-one platform. Means they try to deliver right everything from A to Z. So, what do you think? How sustainable it is from a business and a product point of view? And what happened that the new age founders they left their Eureka moment that this is something I actually want to solve, or this is something I actually want to build. This one use case, and they're going all out against each other.
Yeah. So really, the all-in-one platform, I think it's actually in the early 2000s, mid 2000, close to the 2010s. We had the era of the lean startup, which was the MVP, and the whole goal was make the smallest thing possible to find signals of interest from the market
Right.
rather than building everything and then hoping that people will want it, right? Creating it waterfall, launching it over, and then engaging it because it was people waste so much money. So the MVP was in vogue for a while, and some of the world's best companies came out of that MVP era. Zapier was a great example. I was just listening to a podcast of their founders. They explicitly were like, we created a really small MVP at the very beginning, and they were lean startup methodology. So some of the best companies in the world came out of this. Post that though, it kind of started falling out of favor, and I think it really was people were just regressing to the old way of doing things and saying, no. The way we're going to find product market fit is to build more. More is better. More things, more features. And it's really easy when you raise venture capital. The easiest way to spend venture capital is on engineering
Yeah.
because it gives you the feeling of progress. when you're paying teams of engineers every day, and you see new features being launched on an app, it feels like you're making progress, even if nobody's using those features, even if you have hardly any customers. The feeling of building this giant platform. And so what we often see is that true platforms that are successful, that have like, and I should actually say, even just to be more clear, product suites is probably a better term than platform, just because I know before you're even saying platformer to build other things, but the most accurate way to say it would be a product suite, a suite of products to help end user. The way that those ones work is when each of the sub products in the product suite has product market fit on its own.
Yeah.
And so, great example of this, Rippling. Rippling is they make a bunch of different products. They're worth, valuation 10, 11 billion, massive company. They have all these products. And the way that they do product management and product development is they give a small team freedom to rapidly iterate, make an MVP, launch something. If it finds product market fit, they add it to the Rippling product suite. So the Rippling product suite is only consisting of products that already have product market fit on their own. So when I see founders who have created a product suite in the early stage, they do not have product market fit, and they have not created a well understood collection of products, because there's ways you can take product suites. So like if you're competing with Google G Suite, or you're competing with Microsoft 365, you know what that product suite consists of. It consists of a spreadsheet program, a document creator, a presentation software. So when Google launches G Suite against Microsoft, everyone already understands those types of products. So it makes sense to bundle them. But the early stage companies, they'll make all these products. None of them have product market fit, and they'll bundle them in a way that nobody is shopping for. There is no equivalent to a Microsoft 360, Office 365 out there in the market. And they're hoping that by making the product bigger with more subproducts is going to make it easier to purchase,
Right.
which in reality is the exact opposite. The more products and things that someone has to buy into, the harder the purchase becomes. More friction you add, more time to onboard, slower time to value, deeper understanding that they're going to have to change out of more things. So the change gets higher. So all they've done is they think by building, they've gone against lean startup, launching it over the edge, trying to sell it all at once. And then they come to us and they're struggling. And they're like, we can't figure out how to sell. And it's like, you built a Frankenstein and you never stop to know, does anyone even want any of this
Absolutely.
Frankenstein? So what we usually tell them is like, pretend that you didn't overbuild, pretend that you didn't waste 2 years of development making stuff that no one's going to use, and let's try to artificially shrink your product, make it smaller in order to see, can we find some fit with one of the easier things to sell before trying to sell every single thing at once.
Absolutely. Um, Last question before we close down the session, Anthony, is with in 2022 with the introduction of generative AI, Bard, and GPT. So adding AI to the marketing, to marketing the product, how compelling it is for B2B SaaS customers and for investors, obviously.
Yeah, I think that the AI piece is it really suffered from the hype cycle on LinkedIn, and even broader than LinkedIn. A lot of people were like, AI is the future. You're going to lose your job. You got to get on board. It's going to replace product managers. And the future they was describing is like 10 years, 20, maybe 50 years from now. And they were saying it as if it was here now. And so all of the amazing things of AI actually then became overshadowed by these insanely high predictions that everyone was saying. So like the reality is AI makes your life easier. It makes the products you use better, more efficient. But it's not going to be, for most products, it's not going to be night and day. It's not like going from, a flip phone to the iPhone, in my opinion. It is like a crazy, amazing thing that we can do now. But most products who are whole scale pivoting and trying to say AI, like I just don't think that most customers really care that much, because for a lot of people, they still see it as a novelty, right? They
Right.
were like, oh, yeah, that was crazy when ChatGPT launched and I could ask it to write me a Shakespearean sonnet and it would do it. Like, that's an interesting party trick. But for most people, they're not using it, I think, in like really in-depth ways, like for the average person. And so this rush to add AI to everything, to put it in the front and center, like even with Zoom, Zoom's homepage right now says AI that makes you more productive. That's the headline of Zoom's website. Like, nobody's coming to Zoom looking for AI.
Absolutely.
They're coming to Zoom looking for the video chatting stuff, right? And all those apps that they've created. So I think it's probably the wrong approach to try to fundamentally shift and say everything's about AI, because I think like a lot of things in the past, it's a little bit of a hype cycle.
So what you're trying to say is he means like we are avoiding the outcome statements on a landing pages specifically. We should also avoid mentioning that the product contains AI or has AI based product integration rather than specifically jumping onto what the product actually does and how it eases your outcomes. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for today's episode. And before we end the session, Anthony, for the people who are watching us currently right now, what are the channels they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I would say add me on LinkedIn. I connect with everybody, so feel free to shoot me a DM and I'll respond to pretty much everyone who asks me. And then if you wanted to work with us directly on your own homepage of your website, feel free to fill out the form. We just have one on our website. It's fletchpmm.com.
Sure. So I'll put Anthony's LinkedIn ID as well as Fletch's website in our description for this episode. So, Anthony, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.